The link has been okay.
Right.
So, good evening, everyone. I hope you all are doing well. So, today I would be in a conversation with Tanisha Govas. I think I did not mispronounce your surname, Tanisha.
It's Govius, but yeah, close enough.
Govas.
Yeah.
Okay. So today we are going to talk about sex. I know the moment people listen sex, 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 it's like and at least if we girls are talking, it's like somewhat very disgusting. So today I'm going to talk about sex, which is a very hush hush and whisper topic people don't even want to talk about. So I'm lucky enough that I got Tanisha all the way from Bombay, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So all the way from Bombay, she is a sex educator, she is a psychologist, she is a art therapeutic facilitator. So welcome Tanisha to my platform and to indulge with me in this hush hush whisper topic on sex, sex, sex.
Yes.
So to
Thank you.
normalize, ah, you are saying something?
I
I
was just saying
interrupt.
thank you for the warm welcome. Yeah.
Thank you. So, just I wanted to know, Tanisha, like there is a what does sex means? Like people don't literally know what exactly is sex or what exactly is intercourse. So, could you please clarify what exactly sex and intercourse is?
Right. So there are of course two meanings of sex, right? One is from which I think which is the word which we are more comfortable with because we fill it up in every form where it says male, female, which is a sex assigned at birth based on your biological characteristics. You know, you may be male, you may be female, intersex, whatever, based on very physical characteristics. And that is one version of sex, right? The second is sex, the verb, the word which means intercourse, like you said. And we kind of always end up having a very narrow definition of what sex is or what intercourse is, with it being penetration, with it involving a person who has a penis and a person who has a vagina, and sex is only penis into vagina into intercourse. Anything else we don't really think about, but sex is so much more than just that. Sex can also be about between same sex partners, same people who are from, who are maybe in a long distance relationship and so are indulging in simultaneous masturbation. Sex can also be oral. There are so many different forms of it, and we kind of tend to have a very limited view about it.
Yeah, it can be the vagina, like as you said, the penis and the vagina. So, as a sex educator, so what are the barriers you face while talking about sex or while giving any sort of lecture? Like, what are the barriers which comes to you?
I think one is there's a lot of shame associated with it. Just a lot of like negative emotions that are associated with it, right? And of course, we always say that there's no emotion that's bad, but there's a lot of shame, there's a lot of guilt, there's a lot of anxiety around sex. Like you mentioned in the introduction, it's always very hush hush. Um, that is one barrier. The other barrier is that there is a lot of misinformation out there, and even a lot of educators are not sex educated, you know. So I was in a school, and not a school, it was more of, I was in a college, 11th, 12th, and there one of the teachers kept like having a problem with what I was saying because it was so uncomfortable for her. You know, because even she, like, I described something as a vulva and she's like, that's the vagina, and I'm like, no, they're two different things. So there is so much of misinformation that it's a very long journey to get to that point where we can have an open conversation. Again, there's also a lot of this misconception that if we talk about sex, especially to young people, they will be more likely to engage in sex, and we live in a very abstinence obsessed culture, and we live in a culture where sex should be only for procreation. So talking about sex with any other viewpoint is seen as very taboo. It's seen as very, oh my god, how can you say that? Sex for pleasure is just never talked about, or very, very, very rarely talked about. Maybe nowadays there are more conversations around it. But yeah, those are some of the barriers.
Yeah, it's pretty true that sex is only for procreation. So, what are the myths you get while talking about sex? Like, as a sex educator, what are the myths you have heard till now?
I think these are some of them, right? That sex can only be of one kind, which is penis into vagina, which just completely eliminates so many LGBT people who are engaging in sex in other ways, or so many people who are enjoying sex in other ways. The fact that sex is only for procreation, which can be a very harmful thing to perpetuate, because not everybody may be able to procreate. And sex does have so many other benefits. It helps to improve sleep, it helps to improve mood. There are a lot of, it's also a very physical activity, you know. And it is an indicator of health as well. Like if your mental health is declining, you it will affect your libido. If your libido is low, it will affect your mental health. So those two things are very interrelated, right? um the third one, of course, is that if we talk about sex, people are more prone to have sex, which is also not true. Having more access to information and being able to have make more informed decisions, we have seen there is so much of research which says that when sex education is more freely available, when access to birth control or contraceptives are more freely available, the rates of people having sex, or the age at which people start having sex, or the age of pregnancy goes down a lot, you know. The age at which teenage, like in a lot of western countries and some of the nordic countries, they saw that after introducing comprehensive sex education, people who were like, the age at which people were starting to have sex was around 14, 15, but then that increased to 17, 18, 19, where they were slightly older and were able to make an informed decision, you know. So I think it is, these are some of the myths. um Again, the myth that sex is just for procreation, it cannot be pleasure based, or that if you are having sex for pleasure, that's wrong, or that that's bad, or that makes you immoral, or anything of that sort, right? um the thing that abstinence is the best form of birth control, or the best way to prevent a pregnancy, and it's not very effective, because at some point, if it fails, it fails. Yeah.
Yeah, and also I think you heard that whether if you are a sex educator or a sex therapist, that means you are going to teach the couples how to have intercourse in their bed. I have heard so many of things in my area, and I feel that people are not aware of what exactly a sex educator or even as a sex therapist, what we actually do in our sessions. So,
Yeah.
in terms of your like in as you mentioned, what exactly is sex in the first question or over right now that sex is only for procreation. Do you literally feel that sex is only for procreation?
No, of course not. There are so many couples um, who may not want to procreate and who cannot procreate, but they're still having a very healthy sex life. And sex can definitely be for more than just procreation. It can definitely be for pleasure. It can definitely, you know, there is also this entire community of kink where sex is also used as a tool to work through trauma. It's also about power play. It's also about, you know, the dom sub relationship, about giving up control, about dominating, about taking consent and having control over somebody, right? So there are so many aspects to it. It isn't only about procreation. Although of course it's great when, if that's an outcome that is wanted and that outcome is achieved, you know.
I just wanted to know that do you feel that cultural norms and the tradition can influence the taboo of sex? Like in the Western culture, people do have a normal communication, but over if I talk about in India, we don't tend to have. But though, although in Maharashtra, it's pretty popular. So, being in Bombay or being in Maharashtra, do you feel that it's more like it's more on the comfort zone rather than culture or tradition can play an important role?
I think tradition and culture definitely play an important role, but I also feel like tradition and culture does change generation to generation, right? We think of culture or tradition as these very rigid things, but they really do change every generation to generation. What was a norm in my grandmother's time is not a norm in my mother's time, it's not a norm in my time. And whether we talk about the West, even in the West, there are a lot of very religious indoctrination which takes place. There's a lot of that which takes place, which again promotes abstinence, which again promotes very unhealthy information about sex and the human reproductive system and just human bodies in general. Like if we see what's happening in the US. Um, and at the same time, India, which again we always talk about it in a historical context where we used to be very sex positive, and if we talk about the ancient temples and Khajuraho and these kinds of things, or the fact that this is a country of Kama Sutra, there used to be a sex positive culture, and that has changed over time. Just yesterday, in fact, the Supreme Court made a judgment that the CBSE board should include a comprehensive sex education in their syllabus, and that a committee should be set up to build that syllabus as to what should be included. And it is very very difficult to find people who come to a consensus on that. You know, there is so much of taboo around just the word. I remember I was having a conversation with a professor, an ex-professor of mine, and I was talking to them about this model which they did in one of the Scandinavian countries, either Finland or Denmark, I don't remember, where sex education was taught in school from a very early age, like I think from the age of 4. And she was so scandalized by it, and she's like, how can you, like, it's so perversive. And I'm like, no, no, we're not teaching 4-year-olds how to have sex, right? Like you said, people think sex therapists, sex educators, that's what we do. But no, we're teaching them things like, oh, this is what your body is called. This is what this part of your body is called. Like how this is your eye, these are your breasts, this is a penis, this is a vagina. We're teaching them the vocabulary so that if we're teaching them the difference between good touch and bad touch, so that if something happens, they know how to communicate it. We're teaching them that the syllabus that I was looking at, it was also talking about how people can have different families. Some people may have a father and a mother. Some people may have two fathers. Somebody may have two mothers. Somebody may have parents who have split up and have married somebody else. Right. So it also talks, that also comes into it. It also included important conversations around consent. Imagine if we started having those conversations at that age. And at 4 5 years old, the conversation is very like, oh, I don't want this, I don't want you to hug me, or I don't want you to pinch my cheeks, or I don't want to share my toys with you. Those are also important lines of consent, those are also important boundaries. And how to teach your child to set those, as well as how to respect it. Because in India, we often, many times kids may not want to have their cheeks pinched or whatever, and we're always just like, "Arey, but go and hug auntie, or go and hug uncle, or uncle bula rahe hai, jaake unke गोद में बैठ." Like that sort of a thing is very prevalent. We don't see consent as a very important thing that we teach our kids, right? And again, that is the culture, and that needs to change slowly over time. And all of these come under the overall umbrella and avenue of sex education and sex in general. You're on mute, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to know that what you feel that does sex can impact, or can sex impact other, like one person, all the aspect of a life?
It definitely does. I don't know about all aspects of life. There are so many aspects, but it can have an impact. Like I said, if you are depressed, if you are struggling with your mental health or feeling anxious, it does have an impact of your libido, right? In fact, when we are studying psychology and we're studying like the symptoms of depression in the DSM or ICD or whatever, it does say low libido, low sexual drive, right? And we're so used to reading that in so many diagnostic criterias. So there is of course, and there is of course that interplay of mental health and sexual health. If your mental health is low, you may struggle with feeling arousal of any kind. If you are sexually frustrated, it may come out in frustration in other aspects of your life. You may be short tempered, you may be you may be agitated, you may be anxious, right? In a lot of like movies or shows or something, there are a lot of these jokes made that, oh, this person needs to have sex because they're so uptight all the time, which is probably in poor taste, but also a little bit true that it does help to have a release of emotions. Sex leads to a lot of physical buildup in the body, like a lot of hormones are released, a lot of endorphins are released, and those help to balance your emotions. They help you feel more regulated, right? So emotionally, they really help you. Socially, they really help you. If you are in a relationship with somebody, whether it is a marriage, whether it is just a romantic relationship, if you're not sexually compatible, it is very difficult to sustain that relationship and to be happy and satisfied in that relationship. So it does impact a lot of different aspects of life. I don't know again about all aspects of life, but a lot of them.
My last question would be, Tanisha, as a sex educator, what do you feel? How can the society normalize the taboo which is associated with sex, menstruation, everything? How the society can navigate all these topics?
Honestly, this is a difficult one because it's not a one word answer, or it is no one specific thing, right? Especially because we've also, I mean, there are so many aspects within sex, you know. People are very very okay with the fact that now there's a married couple who's having a child, right? And of course that means they've probably at some point had some form of intercourse, but anything other than that is still considered so taboo. So understanding that what somebody does in the privacy of their own homes is not your business, one. Secondly, somebody who's having sex is not immoral or not a bad person. Third, talking about sex is not a bad thing, right? Reading about it or trying to learn about it, especially from the right sources, is not a bad thing. Of course, when we go looking for information, especially as youngsters who end up looking at porn for information and thinking that that's what sex is, then they get a very wrong idea about it. It's better for them to find the right sources of information and education, you know. And at the same time also realizing that consent is something that's really important. I think when we talk about sex and when we talk about kink, consent is so much talked about, but consent implies to every other aspect of life also, you know. And we don't think about it in those sense, but remembering how important consent is and respecting somebody's boundaries, and whether they have consented to something or not, whether it is sexual in nature or not, also is a very important step to begin with.
Yes. So, yeah, with this, I think we come to an end of this discussion. Very transformative, at least dialogues for me, because I know the moment this would be published, comments are going to get filled up that, oh, you both were engaged in this topic. I know it's still a taboo. People don't want to engage in this communication. It's more than taboo. It can be like cultural differences also, because I belong from
Yeah.
Bengali culture.
Yeah,
I
and right now
remember.
in Bengal,
Yes.
sorry, if you want to
Mhm.
like delete this or you don't want me to talk about it, let me know. But
No,
sex
no, you
in India,
can.
the conversation of sex comes up more in public when there is a rape case that happens. And right
Exactly.
now,
Very true.
everything that's happening in West Bengal and Kolkata with the Archikar medical case, people are again talking about it in this sense that, oh, it's because of a lack of sex education that this has happened. And oh, it's because men are sexually frustrated that this has happened. Or there's a lot of victim blaming that why was she alone? Why was she there? We are not talking about how this isn't about sex, it's about power, it's about abusing your authority or abusing a position you're in. We're not talking about how again consent was not there, right? We're again not talking about how sex is something which involves mutually consenting adults, and if it doesn't involve mutually consenting adults, it's not sex anymore. um
Exactly. I would like to add one more point with this, Tanisha, that we girls, from the very beginning, we are born, we are taught by our parents that girls are to be like, we are not supposed to dress in such a manner that our cleavage is being shown. We are supposed to always sit in the proper manner or that proper posture. Whenever any aunt, auntie, anyone comes, we are supposed to do namaste, even if we are not liking the touch of that
yeah,
cousin,
yeah,
or it can be anyone.
yeah,
So, what I feel is, yeah, Arjikar, like this rape case has been a totally disturbed case because it came up to the media. There are before Arjikar or after even Arjikar, there are so many cases
of
which are
course.
not even being filed about or not even being talked about. Like most of the girls, I don't know about all the girls fraternity, but most of the girls at certain point of time we are being molested, either verbal molestation or any sort of abuse also within us. So sex is not a very hush hush or not a very topic. It's not that sort of topic where we can't get into conversation, as you rightly mentioned that yeah, it came out. People are only talking why that doctor was alone. It's all about power. It all
Yes.
about it's. I feel it's a sort of distorted mentality because it was not only one boy who was there. It was a gang rape because 150 grams were there of sperms.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we need to talk, like as you said, that they were not asking that what exactly is vulva and what is vagina. It's pretty
Yeah.
true. People don't even know that
Yeah.
in vagina, it's not the vagina, it's the vulva or it is the clitoris, anything. So yeah,
Yeah.
we need to talk
And
about all these topics. Huh.
yeah, and again, like rape is not about sex. So you're talking about this case which happened in Bengal, right? In Maharashtra, there was a case which I don't like it left me so disturbed. There was a case where a group of men gang raped a monitor lizard. That is a reptile. It's not human. It's an animal. It's not even like it's a reptile. It's a very, very big lizard, right? So it's not about sex. Nobody is finding sexual pleasure from a lizard, or at least not a lot of people are. It's not about sex, it's about power, it's about being in this weird position that I can do this, so I will.
Yeah.
And understanding that if somebody has said, or if there is such a case, it's not the victim's fault, right? There's so much of victim blaming that happens in our society. Right from what was she wearing, why was he there alone, oh, he must have enjoyed, especially when it's a male victim, right? Oh, he must have enjoyed it. But that's not true. Men are also people who have feelings. They also have a right to give and withdraw consent. Um, and it's absolutely not okay. And that's why again I keep coming back to sex being about mutually consenting adults. Whether they are married, whether they're not married, whether they are same sex, whether they're different sex, whether all of these things, are they consenting and giving proper informed consent without coercion, without anything of that sort? Otherwise it's not sex then.
Yeah, because people forget to take the consent that I need to touch you. That means
Mhm.
I need to touch you. Whether I am in that mood or whether that individual is in that mood, that yeah, my partner can touch me. People don't generally take. So
Yeah.
thank you for engaging me with such a lovely topic because the moment I think about sex, I feel that yeah, I know I'm going to get criticized by each and every one, but we need to talk openly as we visit a gynecologist, but the moment any girl is coming out from a gynecologist chamber, she is looking like this. कोई देख
Yeah.
नहीं लिया तुमसे. So we need to have a clear communication about sex, about menstruation, about any organ which is there present in either of the body, either the male body or female body, anything. So again, I would like to thank you, Tanisha, for coming up, for giving your time and for engaging in this precious dialogue with me and for answering all my stupid questions. Because I felt that, yeah, only these questions, I think that, yeah,
There is,
I am a
there is
sex therapy
no,
doing.
there are no such thing as stupid questions.
So again, I would like to have you in different way, like definitely with sex because you are a psychologist, sex therapist, and a queer affirmative therapist. So I'm looking forward to engage in more certain topics which are not being talked about generally in public also. So thank you everyone for listening this and thank you Tanisha once
Thank
again.
you so much.
So
Yes.
I would be attaching the LinkedIn link of Tanisha and the Google form. So anyone who wants to get in touch with Tanisha is can fill up the form or can get in touch with her by the link of LinkedIn. So I would be definitely giving in the first comment and in the description. So feel free to ask any question regarding anything. I hope Tanisha would revert back within 72 hours because she is also quite busy. Please don't hope that the moment any viewers is seeing that okay Tanisha is free, so abhi likh do. Even if we are free, we don't feel that always reverting to social media messages or even to this can do anything. So we are going to take time, or even Tanisha is going to take time, but she is going to definitely revert back within 72 hours. So thank you everyone for listening to us.
Sorry for
Ah,
interrupting. I just want to
no,
add a
no.
caveat because for me this is very important. If anybody is sending me messages on LinkedIn or anywhere which are explicit, nasty, mean, judgmental because of the topic of this conversation, I will not respond to those and I will block and delete because I am not going to engage in that conversation. I've had
Yes,
such experiences in the past. I don't deal with this. If you genuinely have questions, I'm happy to sit and answer no matter how basic they are or how complex they are. But if they are just critical and hateful, I will not be engaging. Otherwise, I'm happy to engage with you. Yeah.
definitely. It's pretty true that, again, it's a matter of concern. When she said that she is not going to engage in certain dialogues, please, I would request anyone to reframe or not to ask a certain question which would again hurt her dignity, or even she is not in that stage to answer certain lay question. But yeah, if you genuinely want to know something regarding her profession or regarding the topic which we engaged in, she would be more than happy to answer that. So, getting said all this, I hope you all enjoyed. Again, I know few are going to put comment that we are not supposed to entertain all this topic, but please don't mind. We are going to come up with all this topic because it's no more and whispering wala topic. We need to genuinely get into this topic. So, thank you everyone. Again, thank you Tanisha from the bottom of my heart for coming up and giving me time. Thank you so much. I'll see you all in the next topic. Thank you everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye.